right, GM everyone. My name is Flywill. I'm here to talk to you today about WorldCoin, World ID, and proof of personhood. So just before we get into proof of personhood, I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction to WorldCoin in case you haven't heard of us. Here's the famous orb. Today we're going to talk about World ID. So World ID is a privacy-preserving proof of personhood protocol. What that means is it enables you to prove someone is a human doing something only once without revealing any personal information. So the way we started is crypto is obviously awesome. That's why we're all here. But the value is being captured only by around 2% of the population. So what we wanted to do is bring it to more people in the world. So we started with this premise of what would have happened if Bitcoin started by giving one coin to each person. Of course, this is no longer possible with Bitcoin, but we thought it would be possible with a new token. So that's why we created the WorldCoin token with a limited supply of 10 billion tokens, where every person gets a share of this new token for free, just for the fact of being a person, and then until supply runs out. Of course, the problem we immediately realize is how do you make sure each person only claims their part once? And this is where if someone's able to game the system or abuse it or any type of fraud, then the whole premise falls down. And we realize this is a very existing concept called civil attacks. And this is a concept that's present in a multitude of applications, from social governance, and we'll talk about a few more in a bit. So we wanted to create a way where we could solve for the civil attacks in a way that was private, inclusive, and scalable. So we went through all the obvious options, email, KYC, and then we got into biometrics. All of these options we realized weren't enough for either one of these constraints or goals that we had in mind. So, KYC is not really private, it's not inclusive. A lot of people don't have passports or other form of ID. So we got into biometrics. And the problem with biometrics is fingerprint. There's not enough information in the fingerprint to distinguish a billion people or much more. So that was something we couldn't work with. And of course, DNA is logistically too complex and not very private. So that's why we decided to go with the iris, and we created this little device called the orb. What the orb does is it takes a picture of your iris, computes something called an iris code on device, destroys the pictures, and then with that iris code, it's able to check that you're a unique person, not previously registered. So there's no need for contact information, KYC, passport, and any other type of personal information. So this is already quite private, but we realize it may not be enough, especially if you have a single identifier that's tied to your person, then whatever you do with this identifier will be forever tied to you. So we went a little bit deeper, and with something called zero-knowledge proofs, we embedded this as a core part of the protocol. So with this zero-knowledge proofs, what you're able to do is say, I'm a real person, and I have never done whatever action it is before. And you can do this in a completely privacy-preserving way, in a way that if today I use it to claim WorldCoin tokens, and tomorrow I use it to mint an NFT, those are completely separate actions, unable to be traced together. And this is what the WorldCoin protocol is all about. So World ID is privacy first decentralized identity protocol that is based on this concept of a person and is completely open and self-custodial, so anyone can make use of it. The way it works is it looks something like this. Imagine you have this cool application called Mesha where you can get $50 of whatever airdrop you're doing, and you want to make sure a person only claims it once. So you would add the World ID widget that looks something like this, very similar to a CAPTCHA. It's just very intuitive for users. They would get a QR code. You would scan it with your WorldCoin app, and the app would generate this zero knowledge proof that you've verified that you're a unique person and you're only doing this once. So now I'm gonna get into a little bit of the technical details. The protocol is a little bit complex on account of the zero knowledge stuff, but we've abstracted most of this complexity to make it easy to build on top of it. So from a user's perspective first, the user goes to an orb. The orb does this check I mentioned, and then issues a World ID. The user, in the background, what's happening is the WorldCoin app is generating a random secret, and it's showing the public part of that secret to the orb in a QR code. The orb then takes a picture, computes the iris code, checks that it hasn't seen it before, and if you're a unique person, it'll insert the public key into this list of verified identities, which lives on chain, currently on Polygon, and we're working on bringing it multi-chain. So at this point, this public identity that gets inserted on chain, it's a random number. It has nothing to do with you. Nothing. It's not connected to your biometrics, and when you use it, it's never gonna be obvious which person in the set of users actually made whatever action it is that you're doing. So this is the flow for how an application can interact with the protocol. So there's essentially two pieces. The application needs to integrate the front-end widget, the CAPTCHA box I showed, so that the user can actually interact with the protocol with their WorldCoin app and generate that zero knowledge proof. The reason the user needs to do this through the WorldCoin app is because the secret is stored in the user's device, is completely self-custodial, and the app needs to generate this zero knowledge proof. The other piece is the WorldCoin app will generate this zero knowledge proof, give it back to your application, and now your application needs to verify that the zero knowledge proof is actually valid. So to do that, the application needs to call our smart contract with the proof and say, like, is this user actually verified or not? As an alternative, if you're not building something that's on chain, we have an API that abstracts all of this, and you can simply do a traditional REST API request, and we'll call the smart contract for you. The other important piece to keep in mind is, aside from the zero knowledge proof, the WorldCoin app will give you something called a nullifier hash. So what's cool about this nullifier hash is it's essentially a unique user identifier with the asterisk that you'll get a different nullifier hash for each application. That's how we ensure privacy. So if I claim my Mesh airdrop and I get user ID 1, if I then go and mint an NFT with another project, I'll get user ID 2. So there's never a way to trace users together, But you as developers building an application can always use this ID to ensure a unique person is doing something only once. So if your application requires that someone only does an action once, you need to store this nullifier and compare it whenever a user is executing whatever action it is that you need. So all of this complexity can be very easily abstracted. So you integrate the widget is quite simple. Well, I'll show the code in a second. When the user scans it, they'll see something like this in the WorldCoin app. Is as simple as clicking verify, and that will generate the zero knowledge proof. To load the widget, you simply install this npm package, load it as it's shown there. As you see, you'll need to provide two things. One is the action ID, the other one is the signal. The action ID you get from the WorldCoin developer portal is quite simple. Developer.worldcoin.org. There's links everywhere. I'll share all the links in a slide in a sec. And the signal is this additional security measure that you can make part of the zero knowledge proof to prevent tampering with the proof. So for instance, let's say you want to do an airdrop and you want to make sure that you cannot tamper with the proof so that another person receives the airdrop. If I set the wallet address of the recipient as the signal, and then I'm a malicious user who intercepts your zero knowledge proof and change it to my address, the proof will become invalid. So not all applications require this signal. It depends on your use case, and it can be any arbitrary string. The protection it's giving you is that it hasn't been changed. It's basically an authentication by the user who's generating the zero knowledge proof. And then once you receive it, you'll receive this proof along with the nullifier hash, and you can easily verify it by just calling our API, very simple post request, or calling our smart contract. There's a bunch of use cases enabled by Sybil Resistance. Here's only a few. We have some other ideas in our docs if you're looking for inspiration. But you know, there's a lot of possibilities for Sybil Resistance. So here you can go into id.worldcoin.org. You'll find there all the documentation for all the libraries, API, protocol details. If you're particularly curious about the zero knowledge part and the math, there's some details on that too. You can also join us on Discord. We'll be very active during the weekend in both the WorldCoin Discord and ETHGlobal Discord. So if you have any questions, if you get stuck somewhere, feel free to ping us there. We do want to give a huge shout out to these open source projects that make the protocol possible. So Semaphore is an implementation of zero knowledge circuit. So it's what powers World ID and will let us bring this layer of privacy to the protocol. Hovel we use for the WorldCoin token, and Wallet Connect, which is powers the connection between the WorldCoin app and the application. So when you actually are building on this, you'll see the QR code and all of that. It won't look like Wallet Connect, but under the hood, it's using Wallet Connect. And then where we are right now is we launched this protocol, this alpha protocol, about 6-7 months ago. We've been iterating. It's very low key. We've now built different applications, integrations. You can see WorldCoin and Lens integration. If you have a Lens profile, you can actually get it verified with your World ID. You'll get a very nice badge in Lenster, and will know that your profile belongs to an actual person. We have a POAP integration, so make sure that a person's only claiming a POAP once. It's pretty cool to prevent farming of POAPs and things like that. And we are now working on making the protocol multi-chain. As I mentioned, it's currently on Polygon. If you're using the protocol on staging or testing mode, it'll be on Mumbai. So choose whether to use production or staging, depending on whether you're building on Polygon mainnet or Mumbai. If you're building outside of the Polygon ecosystem, you can use the API for now. The other thing I forgot to mention is if you wanna test your applications, recommend going to simulator.worldcoin.org. It will basically let you generate any number of random identities on the staging network and let you verify them as if you've gone to an ORF. Because obviously, if you test in production, if you come to an ORF, sign up and then test in production, you're only gonna be able to do it once. So yeah, don't try to use staging. Just to summarize, World ID is a protocol that solves for Sybil resistance at scale. Private, open source, open protocol, completely self-custody for the user, and very easy to use and implement. If you have any questions, here's the main resource link that you should take a look at. Here you'll find all the documentation and other information around this particular hackathon, information about the prices, anything relevant for this hackathon you can find here. The other thing worth mentioning is for those of you building and submitting a project for the WorldCoin track, be very sure to look at the details for a qualifying submission. In particular, the project needs to be integrated both on the front end and either the back end or the smart contract. So be sure to do both. The reason we do that is if you only integrate this in the front end, then there's not really giving you any protection at all. It needs to be verified in a trusted environment. Otherwise, it loses the value. And finally, we're hiring all around. So if you're interested, come talk to us or worldcoin.org. You can find all of our open positions there. And that's it.